That's no moon. It's a space station.
Okay, so kind of a longer intro there, but hopefully I didn't get too carried away just with the space station medley. But I was kind of having fun with all those clips. But the thing I did want to talk about that prompted all of that was a trailer that I saw yesterday. And actually, I'm kind of wondering if I should just start a whole new playlist for videos having to do with the tie-ins between science fiction and flat earth and cosmology and all that, because obviously I find myself talking about this kind of a lot. And the reason I'm doing this video is because yesterday I saw this trailer for a new movie called Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. I think it's coming out in August. It's being directed by Luc Besson, or Besson, I guess, he's French. He's the guy who did The Fifth Element and Lucy and a number of other movies, so he's really into action and science fiction and everything. And so he's doing an adaptation of this French comic. It's been around since 1967, called Valerian and Laureline, turning it into a movie. And the part of the trailer that particularly caught my attention was right here.
Their mission brings them to a space station made up of 1,000 alien species from the four corners of the universe.
Welcome to Alpha.
Alpha, called the City of Thousand Planets, because all the knowledge in the universe is there.
The Alpha Station has 3,236 species, with over 5,000 languages spoken.
It's Wall Street, City of Science, United Nations, Broadway. Everything is there. So it makes the city the most important in the entire universe.
It's paradise.
So yeah, a lot could be said just about that little clip right there. And I know for some people this isn't your thing or whatever, and it just seems like I'm just making random connections, or it's just, this made me think about that. But man, the more you really just kind of have your eyes opened, and once you're able to look at pop culture and entertainment and science fiction from the perspective of enclosed cosmology, and you understand that outer space and all that is really just sort of a metaphor for esoteric spiritual concepts, it's amazing how much you can see. So right there, one of the first things that jumped out at me is when he's talking about this city, the space. It's essentially a space station, this giant city in space, the City of a Thousand Planets, where all the knowledge in the universe is there. And then they show the little, automated robots kind of going around and reading it and everything. And that's kind of a crazy science fiction version, sci-fi depiction of the occult concept of the Akashic Records, which is something that goes, way, way back in mysticism and was talked about at length by many well-known occultists, such as those in Theosophy and others like Edgar Cayce, Manly P. Hall. But then you also have, Charles Ledbetter, even Nostradamus, I believe, Alice Bailey, Rudolf Steiner, a lot of the usual suspects. So anyone who's familiar with the New Age and this kind of thing is most likely familiar with this concept of the Akashic Records. But if you're not, here's a quick description, because this is a very real occult concept that has been around for a long time. So it should be noteworthy and cause of alarm to see that this is, again, something that is being portrayed and taught in science fiction. So I found this description that says, the Akashic Records refers to the frequency grid programs that create our reality. So, of course, also, at the same time, this ties into the whole simulation theory concept, because it is an occult concept. A theosophical term referring to a universal filing system which records our every occurring thought, word, and action. The records are impressed on a subtle substance called akasha, or somniferous ether. In Hindu mysticism, this akasha is thought to be the primary principle of nature from which all the other 4 natural principles, fire, air, earth, and water, are created. These 5 principles also represent the 5 senses of the human being, blah blah blah. Some indicate the Akashic Records are similar to the cosmic or collective consciousness. The records have been referred to by many different names, including the cosmic mind, the universal mind, the collective unconscious, or the collective subconscious. Others think the Akashic Records make clairvoyance and other psychic perception possible. So the idea is it's this library, it's this giant compilation of all the knowledge of, it's a derivative of the biblical idea of the books, the records kept by God that are opened during the judgment, if you ask me. And so, of course, this is a perverted, satanic portrayal of that idea, but, of course, just like everything else with witchcraft and occultism, the idea is that you can tap into that. Whereas, of course, from a biblical perspective, God is the one who holds the keys, God is the one who has the books, and he decides who gets to open it and when and everything. So basically, again, this kind of ties into so many of the things I've been talking about, where we're talking about something in the astral realm, a place, or, from my perspective, probably a metaphysical construct that is probably taking on a whole host of different appearances throughout the centuries. But going back to the whole kind of holodeck idea that when people go into altered states, and when people astral travel, and when people use various mystical and psychedelic means, whether it's the pharmakia of ayahuasca or LSD or whatever, DMT, so you are not only do you start interacting with all of these various types of non-human entities and non-human beings, but you can actually go to places that are purported to be these sort of depositories of occult knowledge and learning in the spiritual realms. So it's interesting that is being portrayed in this upcoming movie. And then, of course, at the same time, it's being combined with all these other concepts that have to do with kind of one world globalism, the whole Star Trek idea of all these different races of alien species that are all living together, and a portrayal of sort of an intergalactic United Nations, which is what the Starfleet Federation, and it's in Star Wars 2 with the Galactic Alliance and different things like that. So so obviously, again, it's just it is occult propaganda. And in many ways, you could almost say, like, just the space station idea in general is sort of a perverted occult version of what the Bible describes as the New Jerusalem, the city that comes down from heaven that God has made. And so this is, of course, a city that we ourselves make, or that we make in cooperation with alien beings, right? So, I mean, think about how much it's just represented by that idea. If you understand that these alien entities that we're always seeing, that you see in all these science fiction movies, are representing spiritual entities, demonic entities, fallen angels, and all these different types of species of spiritual creatures, and then it's kind of coupled with the idea of the breakaway civilization. And I know that is something that a lot of people who get kind of into the arena of UFO research and the aliens and government cover-ups and stuff, they start to become more and more convinced of the idea of the breakaway civilization. And again, I think that is as a whole is something that if you understand it from this idea of the dimensional perspective, the idea of this is what the occult is about and has always been about and is still about, and the idea of technology with witchcraft and spiritism and stuff are not necessarily opposed to one another. It just all makes way more sense. This is what they're kind of always portraying with like Elysium and the space station there, but in so many different ways. It's sort of a metaphor for mankind breaking away the transcendence idea, the transhumanism. The breakaway civilization idea is just the same transhumanist message, except you're just kind of looking at it on the macro scale of civilization rather than the individual person, right? It's transhumanity. It's transhuman civilization, right? So that's all it is. It's the same message, just being kind of portrayed with the iconography of cities, cities in space, cities in the sky, cities of the future, rather than portraying all the different sort of ways that you could imagine how an individual person or group of people might evolve with their abilities or technology or whatever. So hopefully that makes sense. At the end of the day, the point is that you can make these connections and these parallels all day long and prove again and again all day long that the people who control Hollywood and are pushing out all the propaganda are in fact pushing the same concepts from theosophy, from the occult, from the Luciferian religion. That's what it all is. This is all satanic. And the reason I keep pointing this out is so that people will recognize this and wake up to it and go back and then maybe think twice about looking into what the Bible actually has to say as the only truth that they're constantly in opposition to. And I really hope people do that and learn about the truth that has been revealed by God rather than all these Luciferian fantasies. Thanks. God bless.